Prepare yourself. You're standing at the edge of something enormous. An energetic threshold that will not only challenge your current path, but has the power to fundamentally alter it. The 3 days ahead, July 28th, 29th, and 30th, are not ordinary markers on the calendar. They are charged, living portals, deeply spiritual mechanisms through which time and energy will respond directly to you. These are not passive days. They are reactive. They are catalytic. They are sacred. You will not be able to coast through them unnoticed. The universe, your guides, your higher self, whatever language you use for the intelligence that surrounds and moves within you, is watching, listening, and measuring. Every hesitation, every word spoken or left unspoken, every inner voice you choose to follow or ignore, will matter more than you realize. This moment is not symbolic metaphor. It is energetic math. And the equation is being solved in real time. You're not just stepping into new energy. You are stepping into a fork in your soul's road. This is not a metaphorical fork, nor a philosophical choice. It is a visceral, time-sensitive opening. It only occurs once. It only stays open for 72 hours. And when it closes, so does this window of acceleration. You will either be propelled, like a slingshot drawn back and suddenly released, into the momentum that has been waiting for you all along, or you will find yourself pulled back into a pattern you once swore you'd never repeat. There is no middle ground anymore. The veil between what's been and what's coming is razor thin. You may feel it already, a sense of tension, pressure, anticipation that doesn't quite make sense. But make no mistake, this is a live spiritual test. And you don't get another moment like this in the same way again. Here's the truth that few are willing to say: you won't have time in August to realign. That month brings its own avalanche of momentum. There will be no pause, no period for rethinking, no time to recalibrate. That's why these 3 days are not for reflection. They are for ignition. You are lighting the launch sequence. And once the engines are fired, there is no turning around to fix what wasn't handled when the window was open. July 28th is not just a date. It's a spiritual filter. It's going to test your ability to recognize false ease from true alignment. You may be offered something that looks like closure, like relief, like a perfectly timed gift. It may come in the form of a text from someone you thought you'd finally released, a sudden opportunity that appears too convenient, or a peace that seems to fall over you without explanation. But you must look deeper. If it appears too smooth, too quick, or too familiar, you need to pause and ask, is this something new? Or is this an old cycle in disguise? Because often, what looks like the resolution we've been craving is actually the repetition we thought we escaped. July 28th will not reward you with clarity. It will test your discernment. You will be tempted, not by something obviously toxic, but by something seductive, something that seems to answer your prayers just enough to make you say yes without critical thought. That is the bait. A moment of comfort could cost you months of progress. You must hold the line. You must ask, would this be here if I hadn't already outgrown it? If the answer is no, then it is not alignment, it is regression wearing a more flattering disguise. July 28th is not a celebration. It is a checkpoint. Pass it and you move forward with force. Fall for it and you'll believe you've progressed, only to wake up months later in the same pattern, with nothing truly changed. That is the trap, the spiritual mirage. And many will fall for it, not because they're weak, but because they're tired. But strength isn't in resisting the test. It's in recognizing it. Then comes July 29th, and it will feel entirely different. This is not a day of disruption. It's a day of energetic stillness. Do not mistake this stillness for absence. The energy hasn't left. It's been muted, silenced, condensed. You may feel like everything has stopped, like the momentum has vanished. You might start to doubt what you felt on the 28th, or even question your path entirely. But this is not failure. It is compression. This silence is not empty. It is loaded. You may experience it physically. Pressure behind your eyes, a tightness in your chest, a heavy drag in your limbs, a buzzing in your system without the urge to move. That is the slingshot effect. Not metaphorical, but real, physiological, emotional, and deeply spiritual. You are being stretched to the edge of your spiritual bandwidth. You're being packed with more energy than your nervous system has ever held. Not to break you, but to prepare you for speed. This stillness will make your ego panic. The ego wants to solve. It wants movement, progress, narrative. But the soul, your soul, knows better. The soul understands that stillness is the birthplace of force. That no bow can launch without tension. That no rocket can lift without pressure. Your only job on the 29th is to stay, to hold, to not interpret the void as collapse. You are in the in-between. You are not where you were, and you are not yet where you're going. You are in the sacred tension of transition. This is liminal space, the realm of true initiation, and it is not supposed to be comfortable. That discomfort is not punishment, it's compression. You're being pressurized into a purer alignment, and once the ignition comes, you will burst forward. But if you try to solve the discomfort too early, if you medicate it with distraction or rush into forced clarity, you will leak the charge. Hold it. Let it build. You might feel the urge to share what's stirring in you. A whisper of a realization. A sudden inner shift you can't explain. You'll want to call someone. Say, I think something's happening. I feel different. I can't put my finger on it. But then something will stop you. It won't be fear. It won't be insecurity. It will be something higher. A knowing that this isn't ready to be exposed yet. That pause? That's not suppression. That's spiritual encryption. Some energies are too new to be named. Some revelations must remain sealed until they're fully anchored inside of you. Trust that. Protect that. This is spiritual precision at work. And then there is July 30th, the day when ignition starts. Not with fanfare, but with shift. The engine doesn't roar, it hums. The clarity doesn't shout, it clicks. Suddenly, what felt stalled begins to move. The ideas return. The direction sharpens. The path that was blurry begins to light itself beneath your feet. But this only happens if you honored the 28th and endured the 29th without trying to rush through them. Because by the 30th, the decision has been made, by your actions, your silence, your discernment, your energy. And the path will begin responding accordingly. This is a rare moment, a spiritual checkpoint hidden inside a mundane calendar. It's not marked by stars or eclipses or fanfare, but it is no less cosmic, no less divine. You are not just preparing for a few strange days. You are aligning for an entirely new trajectory. And how you show up now will determine the quality, velocity, and direction of everything that follows. When you choose silence while something powerful is taking shape within you, you are not retreating. You are not hiding. You are not playing small. You are, in truth, protecting signal strength. You are allowing the transformation to unfold in its purest form. Undisturbed, unfiltered, uninterrupted. In a world obsessed with instant explanations and constant sharing, there is something profoundly radical and sacred about keeping the most intimate parts of your evolution to yourself. This isn't suppression. This isn't fear. It's spiritual encryption. It's a conscious decision to let something grow wild before it's pruned by interpretation. Because the moment we try to define what we're feeling, we shrink it. We try to dress it in language that doesn't always fit, and in doing so, we risk compromising its shape. We force something divine into human terms too early, and in that urgency, we dilute it, just enough for it to lose its edge, its charge, its direction. Sometimes, when you speak too soon, you don't just explain it to others, you soften it for yourself to make it more palatable, more logical, more manageable. But this shift is not meant to be manageable. It's meant to remake you. So if something is stirring, rumbling beneath the surface of your consciousness, something you can't quite explain or even understand yet, let it live. Let it breathe in silence. Let it remain strange and half-formed. Let it hum quietly through your system like a song you don't yet know the lyrics to. Trust it without naming it, because some of the most important truths arrive in the quiet, and they need to stay wrapped in stillness if they're going to root themselves deep enough to change you. This is not the time to overshare. This is the time to guard the spark. Because if you expose it too early, you risk distorting its power. But if you wait, if you let it form in the dark, in the sacred privacy of your inner knowing, you just might become it. And as this energy builds, be aware. Not everything that shows up now is as harmless as it looks. These next 72 hours are not just ordinary days. They are spiritually sensitive, energetically active. What appears around you is not random. It's a direct response to your shifting frequency. Life is listening, and sometimes as you ascend, as you level up in vibration, life will send out one final test from your former timeline. Not to punish you, but to ask one last time. Are you really done with who you used to be? You may be offered something that seems perfectly timed. A reconnection that feels cozy or nostalgic. A job offer that arrives just as your doubts peak. A casual favor that appears simple, gentle, even helpful, but something in your body tightens when it lands. You may brush it off as nothing, but that slight twist in your stomach, that subtle shift in your breath, that is your intuition whispering, look again, because not all traps arrive with red flags. Some come in soft edges, soothing tones, and familiar faces. Some don't demand your energy, they gently ask for it. And if you aren't fully centered in your clarity, you may say yes out of muscle memory. You may agree out of guilt. You may answer out of empathy. But if you do, you risk tethering yourself back to energies you've worked so hard to release. This isn't paranoia. It's discernment. You are not being asked to be cold. You are being asked to be clean. Clean in your intentions. Clean in your boundaries. Clean in the way you protect what you're becoming. Because not every smile is a safe harbor. Not every invitation is meant for your growth. And not every echo from the past deserves a response. In the next few days, you might notice a name flash across your mind out of nowhere. A memory surface without weight or emotion. You may smell something familiar. Hear a line that sounds eerily specific. You may feel eyes on you without anyone being there. These are not coincidences. These are energetic pings, evidence that someone somewhere has just tuned into you. And no, it's not about soulmates or karmic tales. It's not about fantasy or romance. This is energy, raw and real. As you shift frequency, you become louder in the field. Brighter, sharper, more visible. And certain energetic chords, some you forgot were even active, will start humming in response. People who haven't thought of you in months will suddenly remember your laugh. Someone you haven't heard from in years may dream about you. A forgotten contact might stumble across your name and feel a tug without knowing why. But here's the truth. You don't have to answer that tug. You're not being summoned. You're being notified. The tether is lighting up not to pull you back, but to remind you that the connection once existed. It's not a calling. It's a clearing. So don't act. Just witness. Feel the nudge. Acknowledge the flicker. And let it fade. This is how old threads dissolve. When you no longer grip them. When you don't chase meaning where none is required. When you allow the past to echo without reattaching. Because here's what's happening now. Your field is being purified. The energy is sorting itself. What no longer aligns is being pulled to the surface, not to stay, but to be recognized, honored, and finally released. These flickers, these pings, they are not signs to turn back. They are signs that you are moving forward. And this window of time, it's sacred, but it's tricky. Because just when your energy begins to stabilize, when the momentum picks up and you feel yourself starting to rise, that's when something familiar might come tapping. A voice, a memory, a temptation, something from the past wearing a new outfit but carrying the same old frequency. It will come not to scare you, but to see if you're still available for it. So ask yourself honestly, are you moving forward because you're truly ready? Or because you're angry, disappointed, or avoiding something behind you? Only one answer seals the shift. The other reroutes you back into the pattern. You may receive a message out of the blue. A phone call from a number you haven't seen in months or years. Or maybe it's a passing moment that feels so precisely timed, so aligned with your thoughts or emotions, that it seems like more than coincidence. It might be a song lyric, a name you overhear in a crowded space, a dream that lingers longer than it should. Something will happen that makes you pause and wonder, is this a sign? Let's be clear, it's not a glitch. It's not random. And it's not an accident. It's a test. A spiritual checkpoint disguised as a moment of fate. People do not suddenly reappear in your life during energetic windows like this by chance. These aren't casual pop-ins. They're responses. Responses to a subtle shift in your frequency that you're likely just beginning to notice within yourself. Your growth has sent out a signal, and that signal is being received. To some, it registers as a disconnection, an energetic goodbye they didn't expect. To others, it feels like an opening, an opportunity to reattach to something they once felt tethered to. But just because they remember you doesn't mean they're still meant to walk with you. This isn't a reunion. This is a release. You're being shown echoes of your past, not because you're meant to go back, but because you're being invited to see how far you've truly come. Old friends, past lovers, family members who always seem to reappear right when you're beginning to thrive. They may resurface now, seemingly innocent, casually timed, wrapped in familiarity. Even those who never harmed you, those who always meant well, may feel drawn back into your orbit. But here's the quiet truth that most people won't say aloud. Someone can be kind to you and still be misaligned with where you're going. Someone can have a good heart and still represent an outdated version of you. And in this delicate, potent moment of change, the most seductive temptations will not be the toxic ones that are easy to identify and avoid. They will be the ones that feel comfortable, familiar, safe. The ones that feel like home, but only because they once were. But you didn't do all of this work, all of this healing, just to go back and decorate your old prison with prettier furniture. You weren't meant to evolve only to end up in the same room with softer lighting. You were meant to leave the cage entirely. These next 3 days are spiritually engineered. Not to confuse you, not to trap you, but to clarify you. To hold a mirror to your frequency and ask you, are you choosing your past or your path? Will you pick comfort over calling? Familiarity over growth? Will you entertain old wounds because nostalgia wears a softer mask than pain? You're not being asked to reject anyone with anger. You're being asked to remember who you are when you're not accommodating energy that no longer resonates with your evolution. This isn't about fixing anything. You don't need to mend relationships that have naturally unraveled. You don't need to explain your silence. You're not obligated to justify your distance. What is aligned will hold. What isn't will fall away. Let it. Because if you keep trying to carry people who were only meant to walk beside the old you, you will slow down the arrival of what's meant for the new you. Some bridges don't need to be burned. They simply need to be outgrown. And if you're constantly turning around to make sure everyone is still comfortable with your pace, you will miss the moment when the road splits and your true path disappears around the bend. These 3 days are not just days. They are spiritual amplifiers. Everything within you is going to be magnified. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the universe wants you to finally see, clearly unfiltered, what's actually going on inside you. What you perceive right now isn't just about the world around you. It's a reflection of your internal state. It's a diagnostic reading in real time. If the world feels loud, too chaotic, too fast, too overwhelming, even in small ways, it's not because everything is falling apart. It's because something inside you is asking to be felt. The static you're experiencing isn't coming from outside. It's the noise inside you that you've been suppressing, now being mirrored by your environment so it can no longer be ignored. When you run from stillness, life gets louder to compete with what you're avoiding. And if, instead, everything feels dull, slow, muted, if the days feel heavy, if time seems to drag, if nothing inspires or moves you, it's not stagnation. It's spiritual inertia. Your body and soul are asking you to move in a direction you've been hesitating to face. You're not waiting for a sign. You already got it. You're just hoping for one that's easier to follow. This silence is not peace. This pause. And it grows heavier with each moment you delay the action your spirit is asking for. You're not broken. You're just misaligned. And these 3 days will highlight that dissonance in full volume. If you feel overwhelmed, you're being called to recalibrate. If you feel numb, you're being invited to reignite. Your emotional and energetic responses are not flaws. They're clues, invitations, echoes from your inner world, asking to be heard without judgment. So don't just try to survive the noise. Don't numb yourself in the silence. Instead, ask the right questions. What is this chaos trying to show me? What is the silence trying to reveal? Where have I been avoiding responsibility for my next step? You may not like the answers, but they will liberate you. What's happening right now is not some cosmic mistake. The atmosphere isn't malfunctioning. The universe hasn't abandoned you. You're not unraveling. You're finally syncing with the truth of yourself after months, or maybe years, of distortion. The tests you're facing, the echoes you're hearing, the discomfort you're feeling, it's all real. But it's also temporary. What's permanent is what you choose next. And that's where it gets tricky. Because silence right now isn't just stillness. It's a gatekeeper. It's guarding revelations that only arrive when you stop trying to make everything make sense. It's holding space for clarity that can't be rushed. So instead of trying to label every sensation, every shift, every strange synchronicity, just breathe. Just observe. Just stay open. Because the clarity that wants to find you doesn't need your explanation. It needs your presence. What happens next won't be about how well you perform or how quickly you figure things out. It will come down to this. Can you hear your own truth, even when the past is whispering familiar lullabies? Can you trust your silence more than someone else's apology? Can you wait long enough to know whether something is real or just rehearsed? You're not being asked to run, to react, or to rescue anyone from their journey. You're being asked to stand still long enough for your next chapter to recognize you. In the days leading up to July 31st, especially on July 30th, you may find yourself standing at an invisible crossroads, one that challenges not your strength, but your silence. This window of time holds an extraordinary weight, pressing up against the parts of you that still hunger for approval, understanding, and external validation. It will test your urge to explain, to be seen clearly, to clear up misunderstandings, and to justify why you're choosing a different rhythm than those around you. The pull to respond, to correct, to speak up for yourself may feel overwhelming. But this is not the moment to make noise. This is the moment to solidify your center. July 30th, in particular, is not about broadcasting your truth, it's about embodying it. It is not the time to speak in order to be understood. It is the time to listen inward so you can understand yourself more deeply. You might find yourself in situations where your silence feels like a loss. Someone might say something subtly accusatory or passively aggressive. Someone might challenge your choices in a way that feels like an invitation to defend your light, to explain your growth, or to justify your boundaries. But even then, the most powerful response will be no response. Not out of avoidance, but out of discipline. Not from fear, but from mastery. This is not the time to dilute your truth for the comfort of others or to bend your direction to make your path more palatable. Instead, allow this period to reveal what has always been true beneath the surface. That silence, when used with intention, is not a void. It's a container. It's a structure strong enough to hold your becoming. During these hours, clarity won't come from confrontation. It will come from contrast. The wisdom you seek will rise not from the words you speak, but from the restraint you practice. There is ancient power in the stillness you choose now. When emotions rise, when the air thickens with tension, and when the temptation to react pulses through you, that is precisely when you will find the opportunity to alchemize energy. By not reacting, by simply witnessing and allowing, you align with a deeper current. You begin to tune into the difference between noise and signal, between what merely echoes and what actually resonates. This is one of the hardest lessons for those who are awakening, those stepping into their purpose. Knowing you're aligned, feeling the vision burning alive within you, and still choosing silence. Not forever, but for now. Because these days are not about being validated or being heard. They are about being prepared. They are the final refinement before the next chapter. And while it may feel like you're being asked to do nothing, you're actually doing the most, calibrating yourself to what's coming next. Let your silence during this time be deliberate. Let it be filled with awareness, not avoidance. This isn't a pause. It's a preparation. July 28th, 29th, and 30th are not just ordinary days. They are energetic coordinates. They are points of convergence between the choices you've made and the future that is now responding to those choices. Each decision you make, whether you speak or stay quiet, act or abstain, walk away or step forward, is being imprinted into the architecture of your future. These moments are laying the energetic foundation for what you'll experience in 2026. And not in some vague, symbolic way directly. That decision you've been postponing, that relationship you're staying in even though it's misaligned, that project you're afraid to start, or that version of yourself you keep delaying because of fear or comfort, all of it is coming to a head now. What you choose to carry forward, and what you choose to leave behind, will shape not just your next few months but the entire trajectory ahead. Understand that these 3 days are not the culmination. They are not the finish line. They are the ignition point. They are the final tuning fork before the 31st, which acts as a seal, a spiritual gate that closes behind you as you step into the timeline you've chosen, consciously or unconsciously. Think of July 31st not as the end of the month, but as a cosmic dispatch, a divine mailing of all your energetic intentions and alignments, sent forward to echo into the future you're building. The universe is paying attention right now, not to your hopes, not to your vision boards or journaling prompts, but to your embodiment, to what you're doing, not what you're dreaming. This is not the time to be casual or unconscious. This is not the weekend to sleepwalk through. These aren't just days passing by. They are moments of great sensitivity and spiritual responsiveness. The field is responsive, not neutral. It is mirroring your actions, not your potential. So ask yourself, what am I still carrying that I know deep down has no place in my future? Who am I still trying to convince or explain myself to? What outdated narrative am I still living inside of because I think I have time to change it later? You don't. Time, as it moves through these next few days, is acting like a tightening spiral. It's compressing, amplifying, and solidifying. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is not a phase. This is a pivot point, a fork in your personal road. And it's offering you a choice. Step fully into the version of yourself you claim to desire, or continue repeating patterns that delay your evolution. There is no neutral ground here. You're either preparing for the next level or preserving the past. And the beauty of this window, if you meet it with reverence and intentionality, is that what you carry through the gateway of the 31st will not only grow, it will multiply. Energy is being magnified. Actions are being encoded. The future is listening closely to what you're saying through your choices, even in your silence. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to thank you deeply for your presence. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to reflect on it, sit with it, and use it as a guidepost through these transformative days. And if you feel compelled, I encourage you to share your insights and experiences below. Your story might be the light someone else needs right now. Take care of yourself. Be intentional. Be honest. And above all, be ready. Because the next version of your life isn't waiting. It's arriving. If you found value in this message and would like to walk this journey together, consider subscribing for more soulful insights. Your support is deeply appreciated. Until next time, stay aligned, stay grounded, and trust the timing of your becoming.